Dear friends, welcome to Interior Castle episode number 5. Here we begin the journey to enter deeper into the castle of the Lord, the interior castle. The key to enter this castle is always prayer, as we reflected in the last episode. The only way to God, as we know, in our daily life is prayer. This is what we see often in the life of the blessed Lord and in the lives of saints and holy people. Prayer is related to our search for meaning, our longing for relationship, and our need to grow spiritually. Prayer, however practiced, is an expression of our hunger for God, actually has a very strong basis in our very existence. This hunger is a part of who we are. In this context, St. Augustine's expression is more than a pious formula. For thee were we made, O God, and our hearts are restless until they find their rest in thee. So that is where we begin as we talk about prayer as a discipline for spiritual formation to enter into the interior castle. Prayer is a hunger, as I told you, and nothing, absolutely nothing can completely satisfy that hunger. It is a hunger to experience meaning, to know that life has a purpose. It is a restless yearning to probe beneath the surface of our being, to penetrate the depth of ourselves and understand those feelings and notions and intuitions that come from the unknown deep within. It is a baffling astonishment at the spontaneous bursting forth of insight when we look for authentic God experience. It is a growing pain that occurs without warning when we violate our own or another's integrity. Prayer is something deep within us calling to something deeper yet, making us restless, unsettled, even at times confused, because we are vaguely aware that we are not being and doing what we were meant to be to do. I like the way Edward Farrell, one of the writers, puts it. Prayer is like a journey which we can never cease making. Each day a man loves, but he never loves today exactly as he did yesterday. Nor will he love tomorrow in the same way he loved today. That is prayer. Prayer is a hunger for God. When misplaced, we hungry for things of this world. That is what Saint Teresa of Avila over and over again insists and underlines. Thomas Merton asked, "Who am I?" and responded, "I am myself a word spoken by God." So St. Augustine's word is everlastingly true. For thee we were made, O God, and our hearts are restless till they rest in you. The truth is, we will always be restless, always know the hunger, because our resting in God is always of limited duration. We are sinners who too often prefer our way to God's way. Our pride does not allow us to be totally dependent on God. We move in and move out of a trustful relationship with God. Even though we experience rest, within quote, and meaning, purpose, and joy in times of yielding to God's will somewhere within us, our bent to sin and self-reliance keeps pulling us away from that state of yieldedness and trustful relationship with God. That is the reason a big part of prayer is dealing with our prideful self. The end of the world for a caterpillar is a butterfly for the master. Strange, isn't it? Death is resurrection. We are talking not about some resurrection that will happen, but about one that is happening right now. If you would die to the past, if you would die to every minute, you would be the person who is fully alive, because a fully alive person is the one who is full of death. Why? We are always dying to things. We are always shedding everything in order to be fully alive and to be resurrected at every moment. The mystics, saints, and others make great efforts to wake people up. If they don't wake up, they are always going to have these other minor ills like hunger, war, violence, selfishness, self-importance, egoism. The greatest evil is sleeping people, ignorant people. Prayer is a hunger. It is somehow a kind of waking up. The first beatitude of Jesus, Matthew chapter 5 verse 3, in the Sermon on the Mount speaks to this issue. Blessed are the poor in spirit, is the traditional translation of this word. How blessed are those who know their need for God, is the way the New Testament, New English Bible renders it. To know our hunger for God is the condition for entering the kingdom and for praying. When we do not pray, dear friends, we cannot think of entering into the interior castle. If we do not think of entering into the interior castle, we can be certain that we are not willing to take a journey to interior life, because we are always there with the things of this world, and we are like a rotten fruit tree. Teresa gives a haunting description of a soul that has fallen into serious sin and become totally separated from God. In her mind, no deeper darkness exists in the whole universe than one living in one's own sinful, dark world. The actions of such people flow not from the source of all goodness, but from their own self-centeredness and selfish motives. Quote, "For just as all the streams that flow from a crystal clear fount are also clear, the works of a soul in grace, because they proceed from this fount of life, in which the soul is planted like a tree, are most pleasing in the eyes of both God and man. There would be no freshness, no fruit, if it were not for this fount sustaining the tree, preventing it from drying up and causing it to produce good fruits." Unquote. Interior Castle, First Mansion, Chapter 2, Paragraph 2. Souls that have separated themselves from God have cast a thick black cloth over their hearts that prevents God's light from shining through them. Her insistence on how they need to come out of this deadly sinful condition evokes a great admiration of her desire in serving the Lord. The interior castle is like a beehive. Teresa explains her readers to imagine the mansions being arranged not in neat and ordered rows, but much like the leafy palmetto bush in a series of outer rinds that conceal a delicious fruit at its heart. Something like a beehive. She bids her readers to fix their gaze on the center room where God makes his abode. The things of the soul must always be considered as plentiful, spacious, and large. To do so is not an exaggeration. The soul is capable of much more than we can imagine, and the sun that is in this royal chamber shines in all parts of the castle. It is very important for any soul that practices prayer, whether little or much, not to hold itself back and stay in one corner. Let it walk through these dwelling places which are up, above, down, below, and to the side, since God has given it such great dignity. Don't force it to stay a long time in one room alone. Unquote. Interior Castle, First Mansion, Chapter 2, Paragraph 8. The soul, moreover, should not be compelled to remain in a single room for an extended period of time, but be made to feel free to roam through the various mansions. Just as a bee moves from flower to flower, so too the soul should feel free to wander first through the rooms of self-knowledge and humility, and then beyond, while never quite leaving them behind. Quote, for humility, like the bee making honey in the beehive, is always at work. Without it, everything goes wrong. But let's remember that the bee doesn't fail to leave the beehive and fly about gathering nectar from the flowers. So it is with the soul in the room of self-knowledge. Let it believe me and fly sometimes to ponder the grandeur and majesty of its God. Unquote. Interior Castle, First Mansion, Chapter 2, Paragraph 8. It is better to walk through these mansions with care than to go about haphazardly through other rooms. Teresa cautions that aimless wandering may not help the soul. Rather, self-knowledge, prayer, and practice of virtues gives it the needed strength. Teresa's metaphor of the honeybee fits in very well with the beehive, the castle. The soul has to move from one room to another, from one mansion to another, to discover the riches of the castle and eventually enter into the chamber of the king, that is the center of the castle where the king dwells. Dear friends, this is a very powerful imagery of the interior castle, and Teresa uses multiple metaphors and examples to make us understand how important it is for us to enter deep into ourselves through prayer in our daily prayer. As I have insisted in my previous series, When I Cannot Pray, prayer is not just saying some prayers or just spending 5 minutes or 10 minutes every day. Prayer should be throughout, every day, through our daily activities, through our thoughts, through our relationship, through everything that we taste and touch and experience through our senses, whatever we see and whatever we experience deep in our hearts. Prayer is a powerful means of entering into union with God in every bit of activities that we are engaged in our daily life. That is prayer. Prayer is not restricted to the chapel or to the prayer room, or it is just reciting certain formulas or prayers written by others, even reciting the Psalms for that matter. When we are in a community, of course, that is very important. We are together, we need to recite the Psalms and pray together. Even participating in the Holy Eucharist together is a wonderful, fantastic, beautiful, and the most important prayer. But when it comes to my daily prayer, entering into the castle means my daily activities are in some way smashed through the spirit of prayer. To understand the dynamic of entering deeper into this castle is deeper into myself and discovering the riches of God. That is marvelous, and that is what Saint Teresa is aiming at in the interior castle. Interior castle is not impractical, it is a practical way of entering into ourselves to discover deep within the dwelling place of the blessed Lord, the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And that is where we find our inner strength. Our strength, dear friends, is not from our physical fitness or mental fitness or mental capacity. Our inner strength comes from God, not from ourselves. We can have a powerful body, we can have a powerful mind, but that does not help us unless we are connected with the divine, unless we are united with the divine. When that happens, you are not afraid of anybody. That's why Jesus very clearly said, do not be afraid of those who kill the body. Be afraid of the one who can kill the body and destroy your soul. That is what Jesus said. And once we are connected with that divine, dear friends, we will never be afraid of anybody on this planet, because we are always people of God and we are rooted in that powerhouse that is God. If God is with me, who can be against me? God bless you.